What if buying leads is the most expensive mistake you're making in your real estate business right now? Not because the leads are bad, but because you're spending money to find strangers who don't know you and don't trust you, while you're ignoring the people who already know you, already trust you, and, according to the industry research, are exactly the people most likely to do business with you anyway. In this video, I'm going to show you the data that most lead companies don't want you to see. And once you see it, you're going to look at your phone differently every single time. Now, here's what I want you to keep in mind as we go through this. The data that I'm going to show you is going to make complete sense when you see it. But there's a question that it's going to raise that I want to answer for you before you actually leave this video, because most agents who look at this data have the exact same reaction. They think, okay, I get it. I should be working my sphere of influence instead of buying leads. And then they try to go out and do it and nothing happens. And they come back to buying leads because at least it feels like you're doing something, and at least there's a chance you're going to capture something from those people. So I'm going to show you exactly why that happens and what the agents who actually make this work do differently. So let's get into it. Every year, the National Association of Realtors puts out a report on how buyers and sellers choose their agent. And it's one of the most comprehensive pieces of research in our industry. Most agents never actually read it. It's available for you to purchase for like $20 every single year from the National Association of Realtors, and it comes out every November. Now, most lead companies would prefer that you didn't buy it either. Here's the number that stands out to me every single time. And I have been buying this report since 2003. And every year it tells us essentially the same thing. 66% of sellers choose their agent through a referral or because they used the agent before. Let that sit for just a minute. 66%. 2/3 of the listing business happening in your market right now was decided before anyone ever searched Google or searched on a website. It was decided because somebody knew somebody, or because somebody remembered an agent they had worked with and trusted. And it's not just sellers. 57% of the buyers choose their agent the exact same way, through a referral or a past relationship. So when you add it up, the majority of the business in your market was already spoken for before any paid lead source even entered the picture. Now think about what that means for the lead buying strategy. When you buy an internet lead, you are competing for what's left over. So you're competing for 1/3 of the business that's out there and less than half on the buyer side. The buyers and sellers who didn't already have someone in mind, that's who you're competing for. And you're not competing alone is the other thing. You're competing against every other agent who bought that same lead from the same source. See, if somebody signs up on an internet website, there's a pretty good chance they signed up on 5 other sites as well. So there's at least 6 people contacting that lead. So you're not the only one who are there starting from zero with somebody who doesn't know you. You're one of 5 or 6 agents to call them that day. The conversion rates on those paid leads, and I have tracked this for a number of years, typically if you're doing really good, you might get 5% of those. See, most agents though who buy leads, they consistently convert somewhere between 1 and 3%. And most of the time it's 1% or less into a closed transaction. 1 to 3%, which means for every 100 leads you buy, you might close 1 deal from that 100 leads that you bought. Maybe 3 if you're really good at doing lead follow-up, but I'm guessing you're probably not. Now, let's contrast that with a referral from someone who already knows you, already trusts you, someone who called you because of their friend who told them that you were the person to call. That conversation starts completely different than the internet lead. See, the trust is already there. The resistance is already gone. The conversion rate is so much higher. And the experience of working with that client is completely different. And I know every one of you watching this knows exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I do want to be fair about something before I go further though. I'm not saying don't ever buy a lead. There is a place for that, especially early on in your career when your sphere of influence might be small, or maybe you move to a new area and you don't know very many people and you need some deals right now. That's okay. Buying leads can make sense in that context, but not long term. Because what I'm saying is this. For most agents who have been in the business for a few years, you have past clients and a sphere of influence already built. The data does not support making paid leads the primary strategy for growing your business. The primary strategy, the one the data actually supports, is already sitting in your phone. So why don't more agents do this? Because intuitively they all know it. And more importantly, why does it fail for the ones who do try to do it? Because that is a great question to be asking as well. Here's where most agents go wrong, and I want to walk through this carefully because I think it's the most important part of this conversation that we're having. They see the data, they think, okay, I get it. I should be working my sphere of influence instead of buying leads. And again, every one of you knows that that's true and it just makes sense. But then they go do what most agents do when they decide to work their sphere. They send out a mass email to everyone they know. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard agents say, I want a good campaign that I can send out to my sphere of influence. Or they post something on social media about being a real estate agent. You know, posting that just listed, I just sold this house, hoping that that's going to get them where they want to be. And sometimes they call a handful of people one time. It's awkward. So because they haven't talked to them in 2 years, they see what happens and feel awkward. So then they just go, I'm not going to do that. They don't make the phone calls. The phone doesn't ring any differently than it did before. And they think, well, I tried and that didn't work. So they go back to buying leads. Because at least buying leads feels like you're doing something. And at least there's activity there. See, I want to point that out really importantly to you, or make that underlined, is a lot of times agents do it because it feels like I'm working hard, I'm calling these people, I'm trying. So here's the problem with that when you try it. It's not a system, it's an attempt. And most agents, I'll bet you would fall into this as well if you're buying leads, most agents call them one time and then they give up on them. They don't continue to follow up. And there's a significant difference between an attempt and an actual system. See, an attempt is doing something once and hoping for a result. A system is a structure that you build deliberately, one that you work consistently over time, and it's going to compound for you month after month. An attempt produces nothing because nothing compounds from a single action. A system produces results because it's built on itself, and it's going to continue to build on itself. The referral approach fails for most agents not because the concept is wrong. The data we just looked at proves the concept is completely right. It fails because they never built a system around it. They treated their sphere of influence like an open list. They could dip into it whenever they felt like it. They could continue to grow it. And because it's open-ended, it never actually gets worked consistently. And because it never gets worked consistently, it never produces anything meaningful either. And then therefore, we quit doing it. And so they conclude that working their sphere of influence doesn't work, when the truth is, working your sphere of influence without a real system doesn't work. That's a very different conclusion. So what does a real system look like? And what do the agents who actually do this, how do they make this work differently than what most agents are doing? See, the agents who break through with this approach, the one I'm talking about, the ones who go from buying leads every month to building a business that actually feeds itself through referrals, they all have one thing in common. They stopped treating their database like a list, and they started treating it like an actual system, a closed system. Now, let me explain what I mean by a closed system, because I think this is the distinction that changes everything. Most agents have what I call an open database. It's a collection of names that grow over time with no real boundaries. See, you added people when you met them. You never take anybody out, and the list just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And because it gets bigger and bigger, it becomes less and less manageable. Therefore, don't do it. And because it feels like that it's unmanageable and I'm not going to do it, it just doesn't get worked. But a closed system is fundamentally different. It has boundaries and it has a fixed size. It has real protocols for how you get in and how you stay in. And this is the part that most people miss, how you come out. That's the most important part of this system. And because it has those boundaries, you can actually work it consistently, you can do it intentionally, and you can do it in a way that actually builds real momentum over time. So think about it this way. If I told you your job tomorrow was to stay in meaningful contact with every single person you've ever met in your entire life, how would that go? Like, it wouldn't. It's completely unmanageable. You have met too many people over your lifetime to be able to manage that. You might try it for a week, but you'll be like, I'm never going to get to people, and I'm dropping the people who I was supposed to call back, and therefore it doesn't work. But what if I told you your job was to stay in meaningful contact and consistent contact with a specific, defined group of people? People who you see their name and you're excited to call them. When you do call, they're excited to talk to you, and they've either done business with you or they would do business with you. All of a sudden, this becomes very workable. That's something you can build a real habit and a real structure around. Imagine being excited every day to actually look at who you're going to call and be like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to find out how their trip was. I can't wait to call and see what's going on now that summer is hit or the holidays, whatever it is. But here's what happens when you do that. The people in that system start to think of you first. Not because you were pestering them, not because you sent them a cheesy holiday card once a year or every holiday that shows up, but because you actually showed up consistently in a way that felt genuine, because it actually was genuine, because you were providing them information that they actually wanted, that they see value out of you staying in touch with them. And then over time, you just become the person that they associate with real estate. The one they call when they have a question. The one they recommend when they have a friend who brings up they're thinking about buying or selling. See, that's the shift. From chasing strangers to being the obvious choice for the people who already know you. Now, the specifics of how you build that system, the exact structure, the right size, the cadence for how you're staying in touch, how you identify who actually belongs in it, and how you're going to manage who actually comes out of it, that's the framework. And there's enough nuance to it that getting one piece wrong can make the whole thing underperform significantly. See, it's crucial that when you do this, that you follow the protocols that go along with it. So I'm not going to try to compress that into a few minutes here, because I actually have created another video that you can click on the link in the description that will actually walk you through that and help you understand the system and help you get to where it is you want to go. But the concept is what I want you to take away from this section. Stop trying to find strangers. Start building real, intentional, close system around the people who already know you, who you actually would be excited to call, and they would be excited to hear from you. That's where the business is, and the data from the National Association of Realtors proves that. So let me leave you with one more way to think about this, because it is very, very important. Every month that you spend buying leads and trying to convert strangers, every month you spend in that model is a month that you're not building the system that would actually make lead buying totally unnecessary and will save you a ton of money as well. Every month that goes by without that system in place is a month where someone in your sphere of influence had a real estate conversation. They mentioned it at dinner. They were talking to a colleague who was just thinking about selling, or a neighbor asked if now was a good time to buy or sell. And that conversation ended with a referral, but to somebody other than you. Not because your superior didn't like you, and not because they thought somebody else was better, but because that other agent stayed in front of them and you didn't. I cannot tell you how many times I have had people say they would probably refer to somebody else, but because I created value and stayed in touch with them, they over time switched from they would refer to that person to referring to me. Now, here's the question that I want to leave you with. At what point does your strategy shift? At what point do you decide that the money you're spending on leads, the time you're spending trying to convert strangers who didn't ask for you to call, could be better invested in building a system that actually compounds? Something that gets stronger every single month instead of resetting to zero every single month. Because the agents who are doing 25, 30, 40, 50 deals a year from referrals, they made that shift at some point. They looked at the data, they looked at where their business was actually coming from, and they decided to build a real system around it. And they will tell you the same thing every single time. They will tell you they wish they had made that shift sooner. See, the answer is already in your phone. It's been there this whole time. The data proves it. And now, if you just know what to do with it, you can flip that whole script and turn everything around for you. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I'm convinced, I understand why this works, but I want the actual framework for building that closed system the right way so that I'm not just making another attempt that goes nowhere, I have put together a video that walks through this program, and it's called 30 Deals in Your Phone. It shows you exactly where your next 10, 20, or 30 deals are right now, sitting in your contacts, and the 3-phase system for going to go and get them without ever having to buy a single lead ever again. We go through the actual sphere and map out what's already there. So go click on the link in the description, and then there's an option for you to fill out a form, and you and I can jump on a call where you'll get to talk to me, not to some other person, a VA in some other country. You're going to talk to me, and we're going to go through your specific situation. Now, if nothing else, the next time you think about buying leads, ask yourself this: have I fully worked what's already in my phone? Because that's where the business is, and the data agrees with that. So go click on the link and I'll show you how this whole thing works.